Why eating less is not always the answer. Good afternoon, good morning, and hello to the Coach Lucas Show. I'm going to call it that from now on. Today, we're going to talk about why eating less is not always the answer, especially in your 30s, especially with fat loss. A lot of women and men struggling with this. I want to dive into the details and some principles that are important to understand before you dive into cutting your calories, right? Because it's the most common thing that people are going for. So we're talking about calories, and people are like, okay, I'm going to starve myself. I'm going to starve myself. I'm going to start eating less. So I've got some key points here I want to run through, kind of cover, and we'll get into it. We're going to keep it super basic, super simple. You know me and my amazing whiteboard here. So the first thing is fat loss isn't working. I need to eat less. This is the first thing that people, this is bothering me. That's on the screen. There we go. This is the first thing that people tend to go for, right? Let's put it there. There we go. The reason that I say you don't need to eat less is because it doesn't address the actual problem. So yes, you do need a calorie deficit, and yes, that is the key to weight loss. However, going for the approach of I need to eat less right away doesn't change the inherent habits that have got you there, which have changed from your 20s to your 30s. We're going to use that as a comparison. In your 20s, you were active. You were probably juggling multiple jobs. You probably had a part-time standing job. You were active. You were maybe outgoing more. Maybe you had more dates. And in your 30s, maybe life has slowed down. Your corporate job, maybe you've got kids, maybe you've moved into the suburbs, which means that's an American thing, right? The suburbs, out of town, which means you take the train to commute. I lived in London for a good majority part of my 20s and commuted with the train for about 45 minutes one way and 45 minutes another. Right, so there and back, which meant that I spent that time sitting or standing in an awfully crowded train, but it wasn't moving. You're not burning calories versus in my teens and early 20s, I was a door to door sales guy, which meant I would walk everywhere. So my activity might have gone down. Now, luckily, I got into personal training and I became a trainer, so I was active. But for people who didn't get that as a career, that's the case. So we have to address those key points. So that brings me on to this, which is what I just said, right? Work is short term, especially in your 20s, and in your 30s, you are stagnant, you're sitting. Probably you might spend 70% of the day sitting, right? I'm just having a look, see I'm recording good. You might spend 70% of the day sitting on your butt. I actually do that a lot nowadays because I'm building my business and my coaching, and a lot of my time is content and consuming and producing, which means I have to actively make the steps. One, it helps. I have a dog, definitely, but two, I have this inherent routine built in me that I get my steps in the morning, lunchtime, and evening, and I will get some steps probably midday as well somewhere. So I'll go on like 4 steps. Now this does require me to get up earlier, yes, because I like to work from 6 a.m., which means I'll get up at 4:30 or 5 and walk because I like to get my steps done. I don't want to put off later in the day, especially in your 20s. I've just doubled that. I don't know why. I've tripled that. I don't know why. There we go. So this is the next point. When you start eating less, your body adapts to that. Your metabolism adapts to the lower calorie intake, and essentially your body hangs onto fat as protection, right? So you're not magically just going to, eat until you starve and fade away, because your body will hang on to the fat stores as much as it can. That is why it's important to address the nutrition and all the other aspects first before you address the nutrition. You can't just cut food out and say, okay, well, you can, you'll get some short-term results, but you won't get something long-term that will actually stick, right? So that's why it's important to build. There we go. I don't know where I moved that. There we go. That's why it's so important to build a system. So I'm actually going to build a system with you here, and I'm going to run you through it literally step by step. I've moved myself to the corner, as you can tell. I'm trying to play around with the camera angles here, and I'm looking at myself. Good. Okay, so what does a system look like? So if we take your day, right? So if we say your day starts at 0600 hours, and let's say you have work, you want to be at work at, let's say 9 a.m., right? Because I say, so you assume you have kids, you have responsibilities, and you want to start your day pretty productively. You have 11:30 lunch, which is here in Norway. I forget what it is in London, in the UK. I think 12, 1 o'clock, something like that, right? Let's say 15:30. Here's when you're trying to leave the office. You've got an hour of commute. Let's say 16:30 is when you walked in the door. I'm trying to keep the formatting nice. I'm just gonna go with this like together. And then let's say you have your dinner. You don't want to have dinner too late. Let's say you've got another time slot. This is just time slot, and we're breaking into your day at, let's say, 19:30 there. So let's say this is your day, right? We're gonna systemize your day, and I'm gonna give you some key points and things you want to achieve and by that time, let's say, right? So we're gonna go boom, boom. The reason I didn't spend time preparing this is because I wanted to make this on the go, because I wanted to show you what it might look like. This is an example. This is not to say that this is how you have to live or have your day structured. I don't like this being on the screen. I want it to be behind my face. There we go. Much cleaner, much cleaner. Okay, so let's say you start work at 9 a.m. I will make you, or I will recommend, or I will suggest, I will recommend you get up early and you go for a 30-minute walk, right? And you might get anything between 2 to 5 steps depending on the pace, how far you're going, all these things, right? You might even go for a run if you're feeling fancy. 9 a.m. you go to work and you'll have your first meal. Let's say meal one, 30 to 40 grams of protein. You know when you have these like all these things added, that AI is trying to be clever and all these things, and Google has this Grammarly thing. I can't actually see the text. It's more distracting. I don't know if technology is getting better or worse. And then 30 is lunchtime. You are going to be a productive, efficient, fitness-minded person. You're going to go for a 25-minute walk around the block. We'll spend 5 minutes for lunch or more, because most of you, I assume, will be able to eat lunch at your desk. That lunchtime is actually just for yapping or doom scrolling. So I will suggest to most of you go for a 25-minute walk, and that might knock out another, let's say, 3K steps if you're efficient. You don't want to sweat. You don't want to be stinky when you go back to the office. You might be wearing a dress or a skirt, or it's icy here in Ori right now, so you might not be able to walk too fast, and that's okay. 15:30, you're going home. So at this point, and you've had your lunch, by the way, at around 11:30, right? And meal two. We can put that in there so it's a bit easier to visualize. Let's see. Meal two, again, protein. Keeps you full, keeps you satiated, helps you with everything. This is your snack, right? This is snack on the way home. Carb based. That's the key, that's the key. Carb. Yes. 16:30 when you get home. Now there's two ways that there's two times that people generally, there's multiple times that people fall off, but these are the most common times. People fall off their routine usually around here or here. In the afternoon is the most common time. In the morning, if you make it a routine, you force yourself to go for the walk or gym, it will stick more likely than not. This is when your decision fatigue, your everything kind of comes out the window. So I recommend is this time when you go after work, either here or here, you go to the gym 3x a week, and you do strength training. That's what I recommend you, right? Because 19:30, this is where you've had your dinner. Let's say gym takes you an hour. Let's say showering, getting changed. Let's say an hour and a half, right? So 5, you get to the gym. You leave at 6. Let's say you've got an hour and a half before dinner. You make ready. You have your dinner. At 19:30, the last thing I want you to do is another 20 to 30-minute. That's it. So then you've got 8 p.m. till 9, 10 p.m. Those 2 hours as your dead time, brain rot, scrolling, whatever you want to do. But you've probably scrolled enough through the phone that you don't need to spend that time because you want to be reading books or doing other things like skincare therapy or a little rest and recovery night, whatever it might be. That is your time, right? Or gaming, whatever it might be. This is a system. This is a results-based system, right? I can be specific here. Do this meal 3, dinner, 30 grams of protein, something like that, right? So you've had 3 meals with about 30 grams of protein, and you most likely have had 1 or 2 snacks in between as well, because this carb snack here will also be protein. The reason I say carb, that's how you spell carb. The reason I say you want to have a carb snack there is because you're crashing after a long day of work. You want carbs to fuel your workout. You want something easy to digest and quick on the go. Banana, rice cakes, sourdough bread and jam, something like that. You can pack with you, you know, or you can buy on the go if you're thinking about it like that. And if you do this, you know, Monday to Friday, the weekends you can be a bit more lenient, a bit more freedom, but try and stick to the same routine. I guarantee you will get results. You will get transformation. Your body will composition will change. You will build muscle. You will get stronger and fitter. The difference is when we're 30, it's really hard to rewire our brain to other routines because we're so used to our routine. So I've also created a new email series. It's it's an email guide on, I think, the most comprehensive fat loss guide, covering macros, nutrition, NEAT, fat loss, stubborn belly fat, muffin tops, strength training, everything. So I'll leave the link in the description, and you can sign up to it, and you'll get your first email. Probably immediately. Make sure to check the junk folder. Otherwise, that is today's episode. I'll catch you in the next one.